Alright. Are we good? I think we're good now. Also, what is going on? The moment I get distracted, a bunch of things go. Alright, yeah, so I did not notice that. We should be... mic should be working again. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate it. Alright, what were we doing? Right, we were dealing with iron plates. So, is that biter attack an issue? No, that biter attack is fine. That should be all clear. Alright, that's just because we're doing artillery stuff. Alright, so this is plus 200%. We need 366 sulfur. So, the sulfuric acid recipe is 1 to 50, but it's actually 1 to 150 because we're multiplying it by 3. And we need 366 sulfur, which means we need like 2.5 iron plates there, which is nothing noteworthy, so we can basically just round up a little bit for that. Then for the batteries, how many batteries do we need? We need 40 batteries. So the batteries ratio is 1 to 1, but multiplied by 3. So it's 1 to 3. So if we need 40 batteries, we need like 15 or 13-ish iron plates for that. So then, the other place that's going to need a lot, and probably the vast majority, are the green circuits. So the green circuits are going to need a bunch. So, let's just mark that down. So we need like 2.5 plus like 13 iron plates so far from those two sources. And then the green circuits are the other place that needs them, I believe. And none of those guys need iron plates directly. So, green circuits. How is that ratio? We need... Where are those? Oh, I had it marked down previously, actually. We need 170 iron plates for green circuits. So that is convenient. So, we need 170 iron plates for green circuits. We need another 15-ish beyond that, so we need like just shy of 200 iron plates total. And that can just go down here, probably. We might actually need more than one foundry for this, although it might be close. So you can have your own beacons, which I'm going to actually try to place so that they don't hit these guys, because they do not need to be any faster. Not that it really matters, but then you get speed modules. Goodness gracious, that attack down there is definitely doing a lot of damage. Do I need to actually, like, fortify that at all? It should be extra secure because it's only got this tiny little chunk actually accessible. But I guess that means that I should just be, like, doubling up the defenses over there and moving that random power pole sticking out. Alright, so that line of things is extra. Then let's add some more of these little spiky things in this area, which should help slow them down a bit. It should be fine anyways. We are missing... Yeah, so they've actually managed to blow a hole in the wall there, which hasn't been repaired yet because of how far away this is. And if they just keep showing up, then that might be a significant problem. Those ones were dealt with pretty nicely, and now at least the repairs are mostly back in. The upgrades aren't. Okay, and of course, like, the longer this can just barely hold out, the more the nest is going to be destroyed and not capable of sending more waves like this, so it shouldn't be a major issue long term. And now most of those laser turrets are back, the first level of walls are back, and hopefully our extra walls will be in soon as well. I do not really trust just a singular wall to hold off all those biters. But 2 levels of walls should be good enough. Under most circumstances, at least. So yeah, we can move on from that and back up to here with our iron plates. So this is 201. So 201 iron plates should be just about enough. And then we get that pipe running through to feed all of those with molten iron. So now we need to actually get 201 iron plates onto a belt, which is going to be easier said than done. So what we need to do is we have a belt running in like that. And then we have our stack inserters there and there, which I think we need to be legendary stack inserters so that they can go faster. And now this should be fully capable of outputting 200 iron plates per second without much difficulty. So then we just take this belt out over this way, and if our iron smelting is going to be here, then we can actually just like rotate this belt and use it. So the batteries are going to have to run around here eventually. So, okay, but we do need to get a full belt's worth. We need to use both sides. So it needs to be something like this, so that this can get one side of the belt, and then the main iron belt can just escape down a little bit more, and then just run over here, and cross underneath some of that stuff, and then go up. So that's batteries. The sulfuric acid is the other place that needs iron, which is going to be going in this belt. So let's get another splitter down here. Let's have the Spidertron move out of the way a little bit. And I thought I destroyed this forest, but apparently not. Okay, so now that feeds those two, and then the rest of this, which is like the main belt, then comes up here and should just be able to pop into the green circuit input, and that should be everything, right? That's how that is set up to go. Alright. So that should be all of the iron-related items. So now we would just need to provide this with its molten iron, and then we would be good to go. So let's start working on that. So you get a legendary foundry, which is going to be going here. And you are going to be doing iron melting. Okay, so how much molten iron are we going to need? First of all, let's just get the productivity modules in there, because we know we're going to need that. You already have 3 speed beacons, so that shouldn't be an issue. Just have to make sure that this is enough. So we need to write all this stuff down. So let's actually just get another display panel down here, just so that it can be close, sort of in the immediate vicinity. And then we will copy those settings down to here. And now we need to do the math. So we need 185-ish iron plates. How much is that in molten iron? Casting iron recipe. So it's 20 to 2. It's 20 to 2, but so it's 10 to 1, but we have productivity bonuses. So it's a total of 250% productivity. So instead of 10 to 1, it is, I guess, let's see, 10 to 2 would be, wait, it's 4 to 1, right? It's just 4 to 1, maybe? Because it's 10 to 2.5. Yeah, so it's 4 to 1. So that's easy. So if we need 170 if we need 185 of these, then we need 185 times 4, which is 185 times 4 is 740. So you need 740 molten iron for plates. And then we need to figure out the molten iron for the rest of these guys. So we need 25 steel, 5 gear wheels, 10 pipes. So steel, with a casting steel recipe, is 30 to 1 plus 210, so it's 30 to 3-ish. So if we need 25, we're going to need 250. 250 molten iron for steel. And I've done the thing where all the buttons... I've done the thing where all the things go away, and now it's like completely unusable because I can't see what's going on. What button is that? Alt mode? Yes, alt mode. Alright, cool. They're back, and I can see what's going on now. Alright, so this is... yeah, so it's just about 10 to 1, whereas this is like 4 to 1, so it's not surprising that that's a lot better. Kind of is surprising how much molten iron goes into there, but it's ultimately not much. So then the gear wheels, we need a whopping 5 of them. So, gear wheels with casting recipe is 10 to 1, 10 to 1, and then plus 250, so this is also 4 to 1. So if we need 5 of these, then we need like 20 molten iron for gears. 20 molten iron for gears. And then we need the pipes as well. So pipes with casting recipe are also 10 to 1, but only plus 50%, so it's actually like 10 to 1.5, and we need 10 pipes, so it's gonna be like 80 or so, 75 maybe. Let's see here. Do the math. We need 10 pipe. Oh, it's 66, isn't it? Yeah, it should be 66, I think. Molten iron for gears. Alright. So, all told, we need 740 plus 250 is 990. Plus 20 is 1010. Plus 66 is 1076 molten iron. And then there's the plastic up here, which the low density structures just natively need molten iron themselves. So that is going to be another thing. So how many low density structures do we need? We need 120 low density structures. And the casting recipe is 80 to 1. But we do have 230%, so it's 80 to 3.3. So if we need 120 of them, then we multiply 120 by 80, and then we divide by 3.3. That's going to be a lot. 9.6k, 9,600 divided by that, and then we have to add an extra 0 for it to work out, so we need 2.9k molten iron for the low density structures. Okay. 2,2900-ish molten iron for LDS. So all told, we need just about 3,000 molten iron, which this singular machine is capable of doing. And then we just need to figure out how much input that's going to be. It's just going to be however much iron ore we need. And that it's going to be less than 175. So it's going to be less than a full belt, so I don't need to worry about it. Alright, so that will take in you. And we will then get probably 2 legendary stack inserters. Let's see, this is 16 times some large number. I don't know how fast it is. 2 legendary stack inserters will definitely be enough, though. And then we just have a boring old regular long-handled inserter for the calcite. And that will be everything. So, somewhere over here, we just put in a train station providing iron ore and some way of getting calcite in. Probably another train station. And then that should feed all of this. So, the only thing left is the copper, I believe. So, oh, we also need to, obviously we need to hook this up to everything. Wait, no, we did, right? We've done that, we've done that. This is just a pipe that goes to there. All these are hooked up. Yes, alright. So we should be fine. So now the copper is the next step. So, what places need copper products? We need copper for the batteries. We need molten copper for these. Then we need a fresh source of copper wire up to here. And then we need molten copper up there. And is that it? Yes, that's it. So it's just like 3 places. So we need plates there, we need wires here, molten copper there. So, start with the plates for the batteries. How many is that? Batteries, we need 40 of those, and it is 1 to 1, so it's 1 to 3, so we need 13 plates for batteries. 13 copper plates for batteries. Then we need to get the wire for the red circuits. That's going to be a big number, probably. Oh, we only need 42 red circuits. Okay, so 42 red circuits. And then that ratio is going to be 4 to 1, but times 2.75, so 4 to 2.75. So instead of 42, we're going to need 42 times 4. 42 times 4 is 168. 168, and we will add some decimal points for that. Divided by 275 is 61 wire for red circuits. So we can go down here and add that in. 61 copper wire. And we've run out of space in this. So we can remove all of these to get extra characters, hopefully. And that should get us going a little bit better, but we can just add in another one of those for our future notes. Alright, so we need 13 copper plates, 61 copper wire. So let's get those just set up and running. So let's have the Spidertron move a little bit out of the way again. And we are going to want you to exist just somewhere down here. So you can feed your plates just directly in to that. Alright, now we get our productivity modules. And this speed beacon is going to be insane. There's no way we need these. Let's actually just take one of those out entirely because it's ridiculous. So now this is producing way more than the copper plates that we need. But that's fine. So then you can just stack those out to a belt, which connects up that way, and that's all we need for the copper plates. This belt doesn't even need to extend that far. Okay, copper plates, check. Next up is the copper wire, which we said we needed 61 copper wire. So let's get you in there. And you get to be fully productivity moduled. And a decent chunk of speed, but not that much, because it would be overkill to do a second one. So, you should provide the copper wire that we need once that power pole goes in. How are you? Okay, no, you did. Just took you a second to calculate, I guess. So that's definitely more than 61, so we don't need to worry about that. We will get a couple stack inserters just to make sure. 2 should realistically be enough, but we might as well have 3, and they can all fit onto one side of a belt. So that should be fine. And now this is just going straight up to this belt in here, which is not that far, but we are going to have to get out of all this maze first. And novice, this area down here is still getting constantly attacked. And is your ammo supplier still working? Yes, it is. But 10 shells at a time when you're this far out is kind of terrible. But it is working fine. Alright, so copper wire. Oh, I just remembered we need to connect this molten iron pipe up to the low density structures. That's what I was missing. Okay. I knew there was something on the molten copper side, on the molten iron side, that I hadn't done yet. So we can take this out here. Because I was just thinking about what we needed to do to get the molten copper supply done, and I realized that was something that I needed to do on both. So this pipe heads up and just keeps going. And hopefully we don't need all this space for anything. Oh boy, that is more drones than usual. So that's possibly an issue. So we just need to sort of shift the underground pipe there over a little bit to fit into this gap. And then you go up there, and then that connects. Okay, so that should be the molten iron fully connected up now. So now we get the copper wire up to the red circuits, which, how on earth are we getting all this stuff out? Okay, maybe we can sneak down along this way, actually. So if we go out to there, underground across all of that, and then now we're here, we have the room to go up, and I think this might be the optimal row to run on. So now we go out a little bit further and up this way and in. And that should be that. Alright, so that is copper wire connected out. Now we just need to produce all the molten copper we need. So, how much is that? We need 13 copper plates, which this looks like it's also 4 to 1. So we need 13 times 4, which is 52 molten iron for that. And then we need 61 copper wire, and this is 1 to 1. So we'll need 61 molten iron. No, this is copper. So we have 52 molten copper for the plates, 61 for the wire. And then we need a bunch up here for these just direct wire inputs. So how much is that? Do I even have that written down anywhere? So these are 120 each, but that's probably not the exact number. So it's going to be based on the green circuits, and it's going to be just slightly more than the number of green circuits. So we have 512 green circuits, and then this is a respectable 12 to 11 ratio. So 512 times 12 divided by 11, I guess, would be what we have to do. So 512 times 12, and that's going to be somewhere around there, divided by 11. So it's going to be somewhere in the 550 to 560 range for the wire going into this. So somewhere between 550 to 560 wire. And then this is 1 to 1, so let's round up, because I'm not sure exactly, and say 600 molten copper for that. So that should be a little bit overkill, but again, overkill is not going to break anything, especially this early in the chain. And then we just need to get the molten copper for the low density structures, which is going to be by far the biggest amount, like probably like 10,000 almost. So low density structures, we need 120 of them. The casting low density structures is 250 to 1. 250 to 1. But then it's 250 to 3.3 because of our productivity bonuses. So it would be 120 times 250 is 30,000. And 30,000 divided by 3.3 is going to be 9,090. Alright, that's a lot. So 9,000 some molten copper for the low density structures. So we wind up all told with like 9,700 molten copper. And let's just round that up to 9,800, which shouldn't be an issue. At least, like, in terms of getting that slight difference in. Obviously, the actual quantity very well might be an issue. Alright, so that connects up. Then we get our machine, and boy, are we going to need productivity modules for all of this stuff. So you are copper ore melting, and currently you're making 1.6k prior to those. So now you make 2.5k molten copper. Okay, so if we just have 4 of these, then that's with 1 beacon. How fast can we get you with multiple extra beacons? So we throw some of those guys in, power that up, and we see what happens. So obviously temporarily that completely tanked things. Also, why is copper melting like twice as effective as iron melting or something? Am I seeing that right? No, I think I'm seeing that wrong. I think it's just because this is faster. Alright, where are those speed modules? Oh, those are just regular speed modules. That's why it's taking them so long. We didn't have regular speed modules buffered down here, just the legendary ones. Alright, so those go in. And this is 4.3k. So at this rate, we would need like 3 of these with a little bit of overkill. So we just do that. And apparently, did we... Okay, no, we didn't go out of drone port range. But we are having issues with the supply of legendary beacons and legendary foundries. How does that happen? Where's our buffer chest? Buffer chest is up here. We have 18 legendary foundries just sitting there. And we have 40 legendary beacons just sitting there. Oh, I know what it is. The Spidertron standing right here makes it look like this is still within drone port range, but it isn't. That's what happened. Okay, so let's just get a drone port down this way. And then we just bring a power pole out to it so that that isn't an issue. And now this can all go. And get powered up. Get some pipes across. And so now this should be plenty of copper melting that we shouldn't have any issues with that. So now we need to do the copper ore input, which is going to be a lot. So we get obviously a belt here and a second belt up there for the calcite. Now we're actually going to need a restock partway through in order for this to work. So we need to... I think we actually need this first one specifically to be faster so that we can restock after it and then have enough have been used already that it won't break. Alright, so you get 2 of these guys each. You might be fine with 1, but you'll definitely be fine with 2. Okay, so now we get the power poles across there for those. And then they get their long-handled inserters for the calcite, which should be just fine. Let's see, so this is 16 per rotation, 2,160 degrees per second. 2,160 divided by 360. What is that? 2,160 divided by 360 is 6. So it's 16 times 6. So it's 16 per rotation times 6 rotations per second. Each one can handle 96. So yeah, we do need 2 of these, but we don't need 3. So now, after this first one goes, we have U, underground belt, and then a second belt of molten copper goes in. And that should be fine, I think. I don't think setting input priority matters, but I will do it anyways. So now this will take 175 copper off of the belt, leaving us with like 80 some and producing 4.3k molten copper. Then this will take another 175 copper off the belt after it's been replenished from here. And is this actually enough? So this will give us 4.3k definitely. So this will get us to 8.6k, and this only has to run at like half power in order to give us enough molten copper. It should be fine. If not, then what do we do? If not, we can actually just increase the speed of this first one. So this should now 100% work. With more modules, this will be faster and thus take more stuff off the belt, which means the replenish will be more effective. And that all goes in. So yeah, now we should be fine. So you are taking like almost an entire belt basically. And then these two are doing what they need to, and it should be fine. Really, at this point we don't even need this last one, right? Because these two are 1,060, and we had figured out that should be like a solid like 800 more molten copper production than we need. So this last one can just go out. And we cut all that stuff back. Then all that can go. And then this should be fine now. I didn't accidentally break these. Yeah, so this should be fine now. And it's going to be basically just 2 full belts of copper ore and a hilariously small amount of calcite, which these long-handled inserters should be capable of doing. No problem. Okay, so the copper items, the plates and the wires, are connected up to everything that they need to be. Now, the molten copper needs to get up to this batch of copper wire production and up to this batch of low-density structure production. So let's grab you, take you all the way out this way, as one does, and then rotate so that you can start heading back up. And you go up to here. And, alright, so you stop somewhere out there, and then you need to rotate across this way. And now we need to somehow get into here. So if that just goes underground for a bit, then this can zigzag up that way. We shift that power connection over to there somewhat and put that last pipe in. Alright, power connection is back and we're all good. Now that all that is in, we just need to bring the rest of this pipe all the way up here and into this low density structure where we have this sort of nice lane there for us to fit into. So let's jog over that way, get into this empty belt lane, and just keep on going up. Okay, so now we are in approximately the right area. We have this belt go underground for a little bit so that we can turn. And I think specifically we're lined up like this. And we connect into there, and that should be molten copper done. Okay. I believe that is everything. It's extremely possible that I've missed something at some point. But unless I'm mistaken... Oh, I just noticed that this water pipe here isn't connected up to the water supply, so let's fix that. And all we need to do is just swap that around a little bit. So now that is all connected up to the water supply. And so if we just put oil in here, and we might need more water actually. How much water is this going to be? That's going to be like 1,000 water. And another giant chunk. Yeah, so we might want to add a couple more of these guys in just to make sure that we have enough water production, but that's mostly just a sort of probably needless precaution. It should be plenty, but it doesn't hurt to be sure. So that all connects up, and now we should have definitely more than enough water no matter what. So we get crude oil, copper, iron, calcite, and science output. So we will set the train stations up on this side, because that's just sort of how this worked out in terms of like where all the inputs are. So let's go over here, and can we just like copy paste that a little bit to just grab some extra space off in that direction. And it should be relatively quick because we have our drone stockpile here. So that can all go in. And now we have this whole area. So we need train tracks. We need a couple of stops in here. We need one. Oh, these are going to need to be... No, we're just gonna bulldoze over those power poles and then just fix them in later. So that can be, let's just count each item out. So that will be the molten, that'll be the iron. Then we have another stop. Well, we need to make sure we leave enough space actually. So let's just like yoink. Where's a reasonably fast train stop that we have over here? Are you... No, you're all janky and weird. Don't want to mess with that. Copy paste. We will just do it manually. Alright, buffer chest. Where is our buffer chest? Congratulations, buffer chest. You get to bring in a couple stacks of those. Couple train stops, And some signals as well. What else are we going to need? That should be everything, right? Do we have... No, we also want steel chests. And we have stack inserters. We have belts. So that should be all the things that we need to make a train stop. So let's get this first one start to be set up. So you get a train stop in there, which I actually don't know if we have requester chests in here, but it should be fine. So let's grab our good old-fashioned solid fuel to go into that, get everything fueled. And then I wonder if... Does our Spidertron actually just carry train construction stuff? It does. Alright, so we can have you go out and replace with a Spidertron near us so that that can get built. So now we need to get all of our output. So if we just do one side of the station, how is that going to be? This is going to be like 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180-ish. So somewhere around 180 to 200 to maybe like 220 if we're lucky. Which, theoretically, we want every stop capable of outputting a full belt. So let's actually make this all double-sided stops, which should be fine. So that all goes in, and I'm pretty sure we've done these quite efficiently on Fulgora. So if we go down here, then this has all sorts of weird extra setup in it. It also has weird stack inserter stuff. But did this look good? No, this was a gross way of doing it. Alright, we will just do it manually then. So, these all get their additional row of stack inserters. And then their row of belts. So that all goes in. And that power pole needs to be there specifically in order for it to all get lined up properly. So now we have this belt points down this way, goes underground across to there. Now we get those two to combine up just like that. So this, they output to the far side of the belt, which means that this will be on the left. This will get jammed into the right. So that should just work. And we should just be able to copy paste that for all of these, although we can't copy paste it with the train section involved because that gets weird. So we just copy paste them side by side. And that just all goes in. And we should have now all of these guys. And if this is going to be anything but the molten copper, then we merge them up into one belt. If it's going to be the molten copper, then we're going to need to do it differently. So the inputs we have are calcite, for this, which this is extreme overkill, iron, molten copper, and oil. So the oil is going to be different, obviously, but we can just copy paste this 3 times and leave enough space between them that we can do our belt output stuff in the intervening space. And can we actually put this like here, just so that we have These drone ports are very much in the way now. So much so that I think it should be functional and not break anything to just pop that one down there. Alright, so then this will be a iron destination. This one will be a copper destination. This one will be a... I guess I need to think a little bit more about the calcite train, but it won't just immediately go in for free, because we haven't done calcite in trains ever. But that goes into there. Novice, as a whole, is missing a bunch of stack inserters, which is a bit annoying, but ultimately not the end of the world. Alright, so we need to set up another train station here. And you get this part the same, including the power pole if possible. So that goes in. And then, once the train stop gets placed in, we are going to have to do pumps instead of stack inserters. So let's see, stack inserters are really just... we're completely out of them on the planet. Okay, we've got 8 legendaries, but nothing else. Alright, so... Gleba. Gleba still is making stack inserters, right? That hasn't broken, it's just a temporary shortage. Yeah, we have 154 in here, which actually is kind of broken. Okay, so you need a secondary output. So that is spoilage, and this is stack inserters. So we need you to do that so that we can continue producing these. And all the rest of your stuff is going just fine. So now that's going again. No problems there. And that should eventually get picked up by something and should be fine. So, Gleba support. You carry stack inserters back like 100 at a time. Should be perfectly acceptable. And those are still on their way. So yeah, that will get sorted out, and eventually all these stack inserters will get made, so we don't need to worry about that. What we need to worry about is this giant set of pumps that we're going to need to do here. Now, I think I've noticed that, like, adding more pumps on to the train doesn't necessarily work for whatever reason. So we can just connect them up like that, and it'll be fine. So now we need to get the output side for the yellow science, which is basically going to be this, but slightly different. So this will be... we find the yellow science source. There we go. And you can have a train limit of 1, because why not? All of these should probably have train limits of 1. And that should be that. Okay, so now we are 126 fast inserters short, or bulk inserters short, rather. But it will be fine. They'll get brought over eventually. So now, we just need to do all the work of inverting this. So, these go into here. And all of these stack inserters flip around. And then instead of these merging up like this, we instead need them to split. Actually, I think a splitter there would be better. So you split like that, rotate around there, and go up there. Okay, but now we have the problem where we actually can't fit all of these in, because this is going to like bleed over into the next one. So I think that means we take this last line out so that it's just a little bit shorter, and that shouldn't break anything. Although the dumb rail thing is making this super annoying and difficult to do. So we grab that, we paste it on all of these. Then we can grab this setup and paste it onto all of these. And then delete the last rows. Like that. And this should be all set up now. Okay, so these, the pumps need power lines as well, of course, so let's give them those. So that all goes in. Our poor stack inserter supply is going to take forever to recover from this. And it should be fine, though. Like, we might change to legendary bulk inserters, but it shouldn't be necessary. Also, that didn't connect up properly for some reason. Let's just get a trade track in there so that that is all correct. And I sure hope we got this lined up right. Yes, we did. Alright, so that's all good. So now we just have to get these connected in and out from this. So, first off, this belt here. So the copper is going to be the most complicated because it has two belts. So let's just have that be the first one. So we start by just merging two of these up. And then we merge these two up. And then we can take these down. And those two go forwards. Then they are going to split, but we're going to take both sides of the split. And can we get rid of this entire forest? Thank you. Just like every tree within 100 miles needs to go. Otherwise I cannot focus. Alright, so now we have 2 belts worth, which should theoretically be evenly balanced, and they are going all the way down here. So that goes down. That goes down. This is a little bit awkwardly far away, but it's fine. So then these two can turn in, and I got this slightly misaligned, but that was inevitable. So then you go down a little bit more over into there. You go down a little bit more over into there. Oh boy. The biters have found something. Something centrally located. So none of that is actually important per se, but they must have somehow they've managed to hatch some biter eggs, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so these guys down here just got zapped somehow. So I'm going to put a laser turret there. And it must have been some biter eggs hatching somehow. I'm not sure where. It looks like most of them were up in this direction where there's a bunch of drones carrying biter eggs just sitting around a drone port. So that could be the issue. Can we make that drone port better? And power is fine, right? Yeah, no power issues. Alright, so it's probably just some weird thing with drones carrying biter eggs. That is like a thing that can happen, I think. It's incredibly annoying, but probably not the end of the world. Just assuming that that is the case, then hopefully just having less demand on logistics drones charging in this area should hopefully fix that. If that isn't what happened, then I have zero clue what happened. This is all, like, relatively close to where we make these, but they have a bunch of lasers around them, so it shouldn't be that. So yeah, who knows? The fact that, like, this is the big pile of them really does suggest that they popped out of drones, though, which is both incredibly funny and incredibly annoying that I, at some point, can have to worry about, like, fixing that in a way that prevents it from happening again. Alright, back to what we were doing. Copper ore is connected up. So, then the next one... Actually, yeah, so this... We had this set as iron. We want this to be set as copper, just for convenience. And then this one will be the iron. So, the iron is less than one full belt's worth, so we can just merge them all up into one. And then just go from there. Alright, so we just get you combined up. And then that belt goes down, that belt goes... Wait, no. Yeah, no, these belts need to go down and merge. And then this singular belt can cross over there, come down this way, and it needs to go in like here. So you go across that way, into there. Those belts don't need to exist. And then we just connect that last little chunk up. And that should be all set. Alright, so next up is calcite, for which this entire giant setup is extreme overkill. But we will just copy-paste this blob. And... okay, so apparently it's lined up like that. So then these all connect up into it, and they go into one of those, and then they can come down. So you come over this way, down there, and you need to split. So some of you goes over this way and into the iron, while the rest, actually, there's no reason to have that be all the way back there. So you can split there. And then the other split can happen like right here. And then this comes down through that little hole we left and into the copper. So that should be calcite connected up, assuming you can get a calcite train going, which will be a bit weird to set up, but shouldn't be an issue. So, we have that. Next up is... wait, was that even the... yeah, so that was the one we had designated as the calcite destination. And some of these belts are going to have to go underground to get the rails out, but that's fine. We can deal with that in a minute. So then, we have this, which is the crude oil destination. So this pipe needs to go down, and a couple trains are stuck somehow. They must be these guys trying to get to these new stations in here, I guess. So that's fine. They can worry about that in a minute. For now, we just need to get this pipe all the way over a very long distance, underground some of that stuff. Actually, they don't need to go underground there. They can stay on this side, and I did not mean to dismantle those belts. Let's get them back in. So then this pipe runs down here, runs over this way, all the way down here. We're probably going to need a pump stack or something in order to make this not be too long, because the pipeline extent is a real thing, and this is a pretty long pipe. Okay, so that is all set up. We just need to get some cliff explosives over there for that. And then we get the science output, which we will actually have just go up and over. So we have all this, and it should be one full belt. So we should be able to split this into all of these without issues. So that, no, it doesn't get immediately dismantled. It has belts come out of it into those two. Then we have you feed those two. And then this goes up across all of that. And then down and in. Okay. So, theoretically, if I haven't made any mistakes, then everything here should be fully functional, and the only thing we need to do is just connect the trains up. Now, I do want to give these a good amount of buffer zone in here. So let's get the train signals in just immediately after the stops first of all. And then let's get these belts to run underground for a bit. And that one can do the same, as can this pipe, and that pipe, and that pipe. Okay, by the way, how's this pipeline extent? It's only like 119 somehow, so I guess that's fine. Oh, and this pipe needs to go underground there as well. Okay, so now these trains can just continue forth for a bit, and that gets them out of the whole complicated area and into just sort of open terrain over here. Then they're already in open terrain up here, which should be no big deal. Alright, so let's give these guys a good solid amount of space just back here, so that if we need to, we can have multiple trains just queue up to wait. So we can do that, and get the Spidertron over here to actually do the building. Because ideally, we won't have to be constantly like placing drone ports everywhere for this. So that all goes in. And okay, so now we want some signals just past here, of course, so that that's all set up properly. So now these are all one block. And what? Novice, not enough logistics network space available. How has that happened? Also, what is going on with all of this red circuit stuff? Just to make sure that that's not a real thing, we can just add in a couple more of those, which should deal with everything just fine. At some point, we're going to need to deal with just these boxes and boxes and boxes full of wood. Like, just feed those into some burners or something. We definitely don't need them. Okay, so we've got these. They have their train signal areas now. Now, how far back do we need to put the next one? Like, if I'm seeing that correctly, just like back there should be fine. Okay, so let's get all of that stuff in across there. Spidertron can come down and get that stuff actually physically placed. And so now they can have one train in the station and one train at least waiting behind the station. And let's just have another one as well. So let's make these go up a little bit more just so that they can fit all of that extra space in. And then the Spidertron can do some construction. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's like back there-ish. Which we have plenty of space. So now we just run across and put signals in all of those areas. And get the Spidertron to place them. Okay, so now we can have our train waiting at the stop and then 2 trains waiting behind it. That should be plenty. We shouldn't need more than that. So now we have a train track which runs along this way. And it'll just be running past it, although no trains will be going past it. At least not yet. Oh, don't undo that. So all of these can get their little branches out like that. And now the Spidertron will run around and build all this. And that all goes in. Okay, so now that we have that, this is our train input, and we don't need it to go past that. It just looks ugly and confusing. So we can take that excess track out and just nip that down a little bit so that it looks right. Okay. So now we have our input there. Now we need our output, which will be down this way. And let's get the Spidertron down there. And if you can stand within drone port range for a little bit to restock on your train tracks, probably. That'll probably be beneficial because you're down to like 40 some. And also you have a bunch of random stuff in your inventory aside from that. Alright, so I don't know if you're actually picking up any more tracks sitting here. Yes, you are. You're up to the mid-80s. Okay, so let's get this set up. So you shouldn't need any buffering like past the stop, right? That would be a silly thing to need. So let's get these guys all connected out, just like that, and they just keep going in like that. So now they all have a way out onto this track. And some of this will have to get built in from somewhere super far away. That's fine. So now we just need to connect this up to this train line over here. Wait, did we need coal as well? I'm just remembering now. The plastic needs coal, doesn't it? Yes, plastic needs coal. Okay. That is fine. We should be able to get that in relatively easily. Let's just copy-paste one of you guys and actually just try to grab that entire segment. And you can then just go in here. And that should be fine. Our poor stack inserter supply, which seemingly had just almost recovered, is now completely scuffed again. And we're waiting on our cliff explosives to show up for this. And you are going to be a coal destination. And that should be all we need to set up for that. Then we just need this belt to go all the way over this way and get into the plastic somehow. So we're in the right general vicinity. This is the plastic's input belt. So we need to get down to like this level and then into there. And that should be all. Alright, so coal supply, check. Now all of that stuff can get built, and we are still 22 stack inserters short. Over on Gleba, that's not an issue. Stack inserters production is going fine. And we might want to tell Gleba support to move these in batches of 200 now, if anything. Just so that we don't have to wait as frequently. And then we will go up here and correct that, so you can be requesting 200 at a time. Alright, so that should be everything. Now, we go back down to here. We're going to have to get this all set up again. So that expands out a little bit. This comes a ways down and then shifts in. And then this has to go up a whole bunch. And then it gets a couple of those placed. Spidertron can run up and get all that built. And then we have this track running straight along that way for this to connect up into. Alright, so now the coal is probably connected up to everything else. That doesn't look like it connected properly. You can see that little segment thing there. Alright, so now that looks like it connected properly. And this should be all good to go. So now we have the coal in. That mistake has been fixed. We just need to connect this track into an input side, this track down to an output side somewhere. So let's run over here, and we need you to just go like clean across the ocean. Hopefully the Spidertron is carrying enough landfill for that. It is, so that's nice. And then this stuff over here is going to get built at some point. Alright, so this is an input, which means it needs to be taking from there and from there. And then we want chain signals to both of those. We just want to upgrade you to a chain signal so that we don't have 10 billion signals within 5 inches. And then those guys have block signals on the outputs, so that should be fine. So now we just need to get this Actually, we might as well just have you just loop up this way and connect in at the same sort of general area, so we can have one big T intersection instead of like 20 small weird intersections. Alright, so Spidertron runs up here and is going to build most of these tracks. And then we just need you to go out there. That's what we'll be connecting to. So now this wraps up to that way. And we can have the Spidertron run around and build all this. Alright, now this just goes clean across the ocean again. And Spidertron runs along to build it, and hopefully has the foundation to do so. So off we go. Solid. Looks like we missed a couple of spots just because we were moving fast. Alright, so that is now in. And it looks like oil is even showing up already, which is exciting. And you are train group coal, so we're also going to need signals along this area, obviously. So let's just get a couple of those in and have the Spidertron run along to place them, just so that we can have multiple trains heading down here at once. There's the iron train. Now they're going to be stuck here for a little bit, but we've got coal, we've got crude oil. Oh, I just realized we need tanks to store the crude oil in once we're here. So let's get a good couple of those set up. And now we just need to get this output connected up before everything explodes. So you connect down to here, and you connect up to there, I think. And you get a chain signal on the way in. And we actually should probably just have a rail signal like right there. Alright, so all of that gets built up. And now we have the theoretical ability for trains to leave this area once they're done. I don't know if they've figured that out yet, or what. It doesn't look like they have. So you are the coal train, and you are stuck. The crude oil train hasn't tried to leave yet, but it will in a second, and you are also stuck. Alright, so did this track miss a spot somewhere? Or is it just that there are like 0 signals along this entire thing? Yes, we did. We did miss a spot on this track over here, so we can get that built in, and then those trains should be able to find their way out. So let's just pop in enough signals for this to be like a functioning section of track. So just have one of those every so often. And I'm not worried about the exact placement, but something like that ought to be good. Now let's get the Spidertron to run along and place those in. So those are in, and now we can run back over this way. Gleba just got hit hard, and Novice, apparently some weird thing is taking damage. Alright, so Gleba has successfully won whatever attack that was, so nothing to worry about there. Now let's get, I believe that should be all the signals needed for this to work. Now you are waiting at this stop. Oh, because you're some dumb circuit signal thing. So we're going to need to figure out how that works. And in the meantime, we are still waiting. So obviously nothing is going to get done really until the calcite shows up, which I haven't sorted out yet. But we do have Looks like a decent amount of sulfur. And you are output full on petroleum gas because the stuff that uses petroleum gas hasn't started running yet. That's no surprise. The coal, though, I could have sworn I saw the coal train here. Oh, this got reverted backwards somehow. Of course it did. So we need to get this entire belt running down to face the correct direction, which involves removing some random trees that are in the way. Then all of this just chips on down. And then here is where I apparently noticed that I was going backwards and fixed it. So now all the coal goes through, and that'll be that. Alright, so for the iron, we need to figure out its whole circuit condition thing, although it should just be a simple setup where let's just have a decider combinator, and we will check what this is doing elsewhere. So if we look up here as a whole convoluted thing, if we look just over here, we just have if iron ore is greater than that, if it's greater than 0 or that equals 0, output check signal. And then if that equals 0, output... Alright. I have no idea why that is what we're doing here, but I guess we will trust that, I don't know, maybe past me knew what he was doing. So that goes in, and then I believe you just connect up like that. And do you actually read all the boxes that it's looking at too? No, it purely reads this: send to train, read train contents, read stop to train. Okay, so that should be fine. So we just need to set you to those, and that should be everything. And then we just get that when that decider combinator shows up to do this very useful thing that I don't know why I did. Then the iron train should be moving again. So what hasn't shown up? Copper hasn't shown up, despite the fact that there are a bunch of trains set to it. But okay, so we might need to improve the copper supply in order to get anything going there. And then calcite hasn't showed up because it doesn't even exist yet. Coal is here. Crude oil is here. Iron is here. Alright, so first up, let's get calcite supply to exist at all. So the calcite is being brought down from space, obviously. Now, we do not need all that much calcite. So let's just grab a random stop, preferably close to here. I'm going to be moving the cargo landing pad at some point, not too far from now, because we're going to be having enormous quantities of various types of science landing, and we're going to need to deal with that by having a ton of space around the cargo landing pad. But for now, it should be fine just to be like this. Okay, so these train stops up here are available for use, right? So if I just take you out and say, congrats, you're now the calcite source. So you become calcite source. Then we are going to just dismantle that whole giant blob of belts. And these will be set to load up the train. And they will simply, for now, be requester chests requesting calcite. So, each of these is going to request a bunch of calcite, and then hopefully, with all of their powers combined, they can provide enough calcite to do a reasonable impression of a full train. So then we get the train physically constructed, then we get the train fueled, so the fuel is there. Okay, so you are going to be assigned to the calcite group, which is calcite, and then you are going to go calcite destination, calcite source. You're going to go to the source for time past 60 seconds, let's say. And let's just type that in. Or full, I guess. And then you can go to the destination until you're empty. And then we can set you to manual, and you have some calcite supplied, so that should be fine. And obviously all this is going to cause issues for our calcite demand elsewhere, but hopefully it'll be fine. Also, the sheer amount of stuff that our drones are doing in this vicinity is completely unhinged. We need to work hard to just mitigate that chaos, because it's just very inefficient for a number of reasons. So, we can get that going, and what are all these drones coming down from here doing? Who knows? How do we actually get calcite? Are we taking it in from Vulcanus, or what? Yes, we're taking it in 2k at a time from Vulcanus, support 1, and then support 2 has way less calcite for some reason. It also has a lot closer to being completely filled. I thought these three were identical, but apparently not. Apparently not. So yeah, our calcite supply should be fine. It's going to be a bit messed up for a while because of all this, but it should be fine in the long run. So then the copper is a bit weird. So this copper source is fake. You can never provide any actual copper, so we will dismantle you. So we need to set up an actual copper outpost with like legendary big mining drills and everything. Let's hide the pollution. So there's a good chunk of copper there. There's this one here, which we're already kind of using very inefficiently. Alright, so let's start. We can actually just start by rebuilding this one, and that should hopefully be easier. So, step 1 is dismantle that entire area. Just all of that can go. Now that that is out of the way, we can swap over to legendary big mining drills. And then these need to alternate with beacons. And it's still saying the whole logistics network storage space. That's because we dismantled a drone port, which was vital for getting this connected up to there. So let's just build one in the intermediate space. So now this can get all set up. And we just need to get a whole bunch of this stuff going. And then they belt down. So they belt down. And then we just sort of build like that. And then we rotate and flip vertically so that it outputs down again. And we just sort of build in like that. And then we rotate horizontally again. And we just keep going. And hopefully this should all line up relatively nicely. Although we could have done some better over there by having those two output to the same belt. We can just fix that in a bit. So these all go through. And that should be just about full coverage. So let's just shift those over so that they output to that belt instead of their own weird little belt. Alright, so now we get power poles connecting across. And those can just fit in the space that the beacons go. And we just sort of spam them down semi-randomly, and it'll all work out in the end. Alright, so that first set is up and running. We seem to have enough modules to do all this. Alright, the second set... So yeah, everything now is up and running, so we can then just dismantle some of these belts that we're using to fill this. So all that goes out. And now this needs to fill via stack inserters. So let's start by dismantling those power poles, which are in the wrong spot. So these need to have their full stack inserter rows. And then we have another row of full stack inserters up here. And this is necessary to be able to keep up with the speeds that we need. So that all goes in. Then we move power poles across here. We apparently need a drone port in this area for you. So that goes in, and now we just need to get all this stuff connected up. And those go in via belt. Then we have splitters for those two and for those two. So you just go in like that. Then you go in like that. And then we have a splitter up here, which takes those, but then we have two outputs so that the two belts can both fully output. And now that's all going. And now we just sort of take this belt and just sort of throw it in there, or however. And now this is functional, and once the second belt shows up, it'll be full speed. So now we should be able to load up trains super fast, and this has 3.4 million copper, which with legendary big mining drills with legendary productivity modules, that should last us a really long time. So I'm not super worried about that. And this is definitely 2 full belts of copper. So it would be enough to run this to run our new setup if our new setup were the only thing going. I do not know if that will actually work properly, because we do have other places that need copper. But it is like pretty fast, all things told. Like, each of these would individually be able to do a lot more if we needed it to. So, for now, let's just peek down here. And you still haven't shown up, so I think you need a separate train. Which, really, we should just give all of these guys new trains. Just to make sure that all the loops have enough trains. So, we did set up this, like, designated train construction area. So you can be a new train on the iron loop. And then you can go... I don't know, you can go somewhere and just enough to get moving. Then we have the new train on the copper loop built down here, right? It's on its way. It's on its way, taking its time, though. Looks like that's probably going to be these yellow bots flying in now. So that all gets built up. And then you have everything, so you get set to copper, automatic, and you are not doing anything. Okay, so you go there until empty cargo inventory, and so then you instantly leave, and you're just waiting for a spot at a copper source. Okay, that's fine. So then we will add another new train on, so you get to be for the crude oil. And we will add you onto that loop. And you have everything right, so you can get set to manual, or set to automatic, and off you go. And then finally we will add one new train onto the coal setup. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get assigned to the coal group and automatic. Okay, so those are all going. Now this is our copper ore supply. There's one train here. Okay, that train is trying to get here and it's stuck. How are you stuck? So all these signals are red, indicating that there's something in here. So this sort of... Oh, I see. You need a signal there. That's what happened. So we're just missing one random signal, and now that jam is done, and you should be able to now leave, pick up your stuff, and hopefully come back. So off you go. That's the copper train that we just built. The calcite is here, which means that the iron... all the iron stuff should be going, and I believe the only thing we're waiting on are the things that require copper, which it's most things, honestly, because a lot of things require green circuits or whatever, but hopefully that copper train will make its way back here. So you are going all the way up there. It's a really long trip, and there are a couple of these guys with destination full copper source. So, do you have the space to allow multiple trains at once? Not especially given how you're set up, but maybe we can fix you so that you can. So first of all, we're going to need a signal there and a signal there. So then, if that is the signal at the end of that, then if we move that signal back to there, this should be able to have a train limit of 2 now, I think. I think we have enough space for that. which should hopefully get that moving faster, because we just need those trains going. We just need the trains moving. Like, this has way more than enough productivity, but if there aren't trains coming here to be loading, then it doesn't help. So we got 2 coming here, and then you are headed towards copper destination all the way down here, so that you should be the one we're waiting on. You show up, and out goes the copper in what pretty quickly evens out to 2 full belts. Alright, now we just get to watch this go. So we get copper up to molten copper, and at this point, if we don't get yellow science, then something is actively going wrong. So that has filled in. These are output full for some reason. Oh, I see. That copper pipe did not quite get connected across. So now these guys should be running a little bit more. And you have access to all of that. The green circuits are going, the red circuits are going. So the red circuits and green circuits are going to have to get up here before anything happens. And I don't see any green circuits making their way to the blues. Oh, that's probably because we have an overflow belt. They're probably... Let's see here. So this is the green circuit output. Oh, this belt did not get connected correctly, so we can just pop that in, and that should get the rest of the green circuit production, which should go over to the blue circuits. So that all flows through, and that'll give us our blue circuits. All these flying robot frames are going out. And so that is the first direct item into here done. The low density structures are missing. Oh, I'm dumb. That's why these need to be set to regular. So those get set to regular low density structures. And the blue circuits are also here. Low density structures are here. Yellow science is getting sent out. Now, the flying robot frames, we don't need to worry about belt speed for them, right? Flying robot frames were 40. Okay, no. 40 means that at half of a belt, we actually don't have enough space for them. And, I mean, that's clearly not the issue right now, but we need to go out to here and go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we need to go halfway down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then out here we need to do the whole widget thing so that we send those out to the other side, which I don't think breaks anything, right? Yeah, okay, so the foundries are not getting the low density structures are not getting their molten copper. And that, if we go all the way back here, is because we just used it all instantly. Yeah, that makes sense. That is what happens when you have 2 full belts worth of molten copper. And it looks like there's something weird with our copper supply where it's not filling up properly. Because, like, that was not a full train's worth of copper. Alright, so now we get to investigate. That was you, right? What settings do you have? Can I please just click on you? Stop moving so fast. I want to click on you. Alright, it's fine. We'll click on the copper thing over here. So, what do you have? You have copper source until full cargo inventory or 120 seconds. Copper destination until empty cargo inventory. So I don't see what the problem is. Like, even like this, you should be delivering more cargo than you are. So that goes, you get completely filled up with 2,000, so 2,000 copper per stop, per thing. We have 4 of those. We have 8k copper. Now, if we're using like, we said we're using like 400 a second, is that the problem? Is this just, the demand is just so insanely high? So we needed 2,900 molten, no wait, we needed 10,000 molten copper, just about, which means we're using somewhere in the realm of 400 per second. We have 8,000 per shipment, which means 8,000 divided by 400. I'm too lazy to do the very easy math. 8,000 divided by 400. So we need a copper train every 20 seconds in order to keep up. Yikes. So, bare minimum, we can set you to like 3, right? So we have 1 in the station, we have 1 in the first segment behind it, we have another in the next segment behind it. So yeah, we can set you to train limit of 3, and then we can just add more trains onto this, and that should help. So you get built up. It's so nice having this like designated area where constructing trains is fast. I need to remember that I have this. So let's get a couple of these guys in, and it looks like I don't have... Okay, let's set that up to like 20 of those and like 10 of those. And then let's set this solid fuel up to like 250, just so that we have the ability to construct many back-to-back if we really need to. Alright, so you are now off. And hopefully that'll be enough. We should have enough input, because we have 2 full belts of input, so that should be fine. But I don't know if we will be able to get it through reasonably quickly. Also, is solid fuel fine? Solid fuel looks a little dodgy. Like, this station is out of solid fuel, but that's probably because a bunch of trains all stopped here just recently. We have like 900 to spare, so it should be fine. Alright, so that train is off. Then we have another train incoming. And then we just have to hope that this increased copper supply will eventually get to the point where we have enough. And if not, we will just add another copper patch, preferably down here. Like, we could grab that one, for example. And now we have you. We have another one on the way already. So we are converting copper into all the things that we need. And as these buffers fill, it should be like completely efficient. So whatever the ratio is supposed to be should be correct. But it's just that we need so much of it. And I'm pretty sure this molten copper recipe is like the only reasonable option, right? Like, there's no other thing that we can do to make it more efficient. So I think it's just kind of going to be like this for a bit. And of course, we can never get enough copper for the low density structure production to like properly warm up, which means that these guys are just not getting the chance to run. so I don't even know if like the throughput is good enough. And I'm not going to until basically the entire science setup is fully built, which is going to be quite a long time from now. But who knows? Hopefully this will work out. So we can also like add a second copper station in here in case that helps, so that we have multiple places getting copper delivered. But I think really the problem is just that the copper source is all the way up there, and the place we need it is all the way down here. So we've got this copper patch here. Let's just grab that. So if we just like copy paste this like in its entirety, is that just about the right size? No, it's a good bit too small. So we will instead just copy paste this to get the sort of checkerboard pattern that we like. And then you need to go in somewhere specific for this to line up properly. So you can just go in like that. And then we can copy paste the rest of these guys up to fill in this extra area. And then we can get another row back here. We have the space for that. And that should be good. Now we are going to need full defensive coverage of this because it is on the frontier a bit. So let's give you a nice solid box of walls, and then you get a bunch of power poles going around those walls. Just like that. And then down to there, and then across to there. Okay, now we get laser turrets just sort of packed amongst this area. And make sure they're quite dense, but not too dense that we have to place down like 10,000 of them. So that all goes in, and like in these areas where we're not really expecting to get hit, we can go a little bit less dense still. Obviously this might all get attacked and blown up, which would be quite a shame, but it's pretty unlikely because we do have like artillery post coverage and stuff, so it should be fine. But like this corner down here, really this whole side, but especially this corner is like the most likely spot because we have artillery posts out there, but not really anything out there. So all this is going to get built up. Some of it's even starting to function. So now we get our train section. So we just get some tracks. Those go down here. And then we get another line of tracks, which can go up this way. And then those tracks loop around. And now we need to get basically this exact setup. Hopefully will line up properly. So that goes in, but this, instead of coal source, becomes a copper source. And then we just have to get these belts all into that. So we go... How many rows do we have? We have 4 rows, each of which is like 100% going to be a full belt's worth. So let's just connect these out to sort of that area, and then you can go in there and, I don't know, just just connect this up kind of however. We're short on productivity modules again, so that's going to be a bit of a waiting game, but they should show up eventually, and in the short term, it's not that big of a deal to be a couple of productivity modules short. Okay, so now we have all that in. We just connect the power pole across. And now we are simply waiting for those productivity modules to get built and all this stuff to get constructed. So that can all go in, and then we just need to connect it up to this whole section, and once we have that, it should be like premium location to provide to that giant copper demand. So let's start by running this sort of around that way, just so that we can connect this into the side. So that goes in. You go in like that. And now we just take these all the way out here and up. And we're going to connect them in sort of up in this area. So this train that I'm currently connecting is the input, which means it needs to be taking from there and from there. So let's make sure that that is signaled properly, and these signals will basically be the whole thing once we're set up. So that and that go in, and then this gets a signal coming out somehow. Now we take this train, it gets looped around, and this is all very scuffed, but it should work out. So you then go to there and over to there, which, let's see here. So that actually needs to be a chain signal. Then these need to have block signals. That one already does. And then you need a chain signal going in. And that should be a really janky and weird looking T intersection. And now this should be a fully functional copper ore source, which it would be if it weren't for all of these guys being weird. Also, I've just realized, I think, are these legendaries? Okay, the machines are, but the beacons and the beacons are not legendaries. So we need to make that upgrade happen so that this can be extra fast. It's not a huge deal because currently mining speed isn't really the limiting factor, but it will be a benefit once it exists. So that all gets built up. And those are all in. These are also just carrying tier 1 speed modules, which is, again, a little bit suboptimal, but I don't think the speed is going to be the thing that causes it to completely break. Alright, so now you are set up in theory, and we need to give you more signals so that you can be more easily accessed. Just like every signal here just dramatically increases the number of trains that can be heading down here at once. So that is that, and then this gets signals going out as well. And no real rhyme or reason to how far we space them, just far enough that it's not super weird, but that ought to do. And we have one signal immediately after the station, of course. Alright, so now we have a train. So now the copper train is lost. It's trying to get down here, but something hasn't been built up properly. So, how is that? So you should be able to just come down this way, and I don't know what the problem is, actually. Oh, wait, no, now it's a different one? Now it's... Okay, now it's gone. They've figured it out. Very nice. So you don't even currently have any trains headed towards you, which I think means we just need to keep adding copper trains until that happens. So we're just going to add a couple more copper trains and then probably wrap up the stream for the day. So, in you go. Congratulations, you've been assigned to copper. And off you go. Okay, so you are getting lost trying to get down here. So something's going wrong with that. But we are just about where I normally end the stream, so I think we're going to wrap up here for the day. We will hopefully figure out what's going on with that just first thing next time. So, thanks for hanging out. It's been a lot of fun. We now have a nice solid supply of yellow science, although it's not quite fully up to speed yet. Hopefully it will be eventually. We can just keep on working on this whole train stuff until it does. And other than that, I will be back here doing Factorio again on Monday, where we'll be fixing up those problems. And then we'll be doing Dyson Sphere program again on Tuesday. So if you're interested in any of that, just sort of various factory game build and stuff, then you should stop by. I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time. And yeah, that's about it. Make sure to follow if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.